and welcome back to Mother Udder Farms. So last week you saw me make one of these brooders here. We now have over 150 chickens on the farm, and the chicks that are in this brooder here are my boys' chicks. The boys decided they wanted to try out bantams. So I am going to be installing today a heat element in there to keep them warm. And there's a reason why we don't use a heat lamp on the top like a lot of other people do. Our brooder shelves are just too narrow a space to allow for that. But it's okay because this system allows us to put the heat in from the side, and it's high enough that the chicks don't get hurt. By the time that they're big enough to get close to that heat element, the heat element is turned off anyway. We usually brood chicks in the summertime anyway in our laundry room, and we have several shelves that we made out of old recycled closet doors that fit perfectly into the little nook. And we have, I believe 4 doors, which allows for 5 or 6, well, you'll see, brooders on one side, and for smaller brooders on the right side for quail or for these little guys, or for smaller batches of chicks. It's a good space because it's a nice warm space, and it's great if we wanted to brood them in the winter. It would be a very, very warm space, and in the summer, you know, it can get a little too warm because there's no central AC in this house, and there's no window to put an AC in that room. And there's really not much ventilation because there's no opening window of any kind. So this heating element that we put in there has to be regulated somehow. And how we regulate that is with a Reptile temperature regulator. We plug the plug-in from our light fixture into this regulator, and we put the little temperature detector down in there, and when it reaches the temperature that we want it to be, it turns off the heat. And when it gets below the temperature we want it to be, it turns the heat back on, so we don't have to come by and check the thermometer all the time. As long as we remember to put the temperature device in there, it will continue to operate correctly. Okay. What we use for a heating element are these ceramic heat emitters that are also Reptile devices. And how I got this idea is my kids have reptiles. I saw these in the Reptile store, and I thought, well, maybe that might work. And I started Googling it, and sure enough, there are people using these for chickens. So I thought, well, heck, that would work just fine. You see that's got a little threaded end on there. It screws right into any kind of light receptacle. I didn't like the ones that they had at the local hardware stores because they were plastic. And I didn't know if they would hold up year after year, especially to the weight of these ceramic ones. So we got them at the Restore because the Restore had the old ceramic style, and they were cheaper, and we like to reuse things as much as possible. So that's what we do. So I'm going to show you how to build this. But first I got to get these little guys out of here and put them in a safe environment where the cats won't eat them. All right, guys. All right, so I've already, let's see if you can see this, taken a 3/4 inch Forstner bit and drilled a hole right there. All right, then I took a smaller drill and I drilled a hole right on either side of this. There's a reason for that. And that's because I've got to install this thing on the inside. And that is the receptacle that the heat element is going to go inside of. So let me show you everything that you're going to need. Besides your brooder, which we already built last week, You're gonna need a receptacle. You're gonna need a ceramic Reptile heat emitter. You're gonna need a temperature controller. You're gonna need a short extension cord. You're gonna need a wire stripper and a needle nose plier, whatever size you're comfortable with using, as well as a Phillips head screwdriver. So let's get to work. Now, as I showed you already, I already cut the holes on the end here. That center hole is a 3/4 inch Forstner bit. And you could do it smaller if you wanted to, but the 3/4 inch works really well for getting the cord through and making sure you have plenty of room to work. You're also going to need some nuts and some bolts that fit the screw holes on your receptacle. So the easiest way to do this is to put your receptacle up against the inside where you're planning on placing it. I place it as high up on the inside of the brooder as possible, and then mark where you're going to put the screws on the outside with a marker. And then you want to go just a little bit lower than where all of this electric work is. You see where the electric work is? Okay, I'm going to go below that and put a dot for where your Forstner bit is going to screw in. Once you've done that, drill your hole for your Forstner bit. Then take the drill bit off and drill your holes for your bolts. Detach your cord, cut the head off of it, not the plug side. And strip the middle wires down a bit. Then you need to strip these wires. So hopefully you know how to use a wire stripper. If you don't, you find the correct gauge on your wire stripper and you just kind of twist back and forth until the insulation slides free. Pretty simple. Now I've got 2 bare wires ready to connect to my device. All right, you're going to need to put your bolts through and screw on the nuts on the outside. You're going to thread your wires through from the outside and connect them to your device. All right, now that you have everything attached, go ahead and slide. Go ahead and slide the device onto your bolts and begin to screw down these nuts. Now, personally, I prefer these devices when they have only one set of holes on either side instead of 2 sets of holes. But this does give you options, and if it's the only kind you can find, then by all means use it. All right, then with your hand holding the bolt in the back, go ahead and start tightening down the screws from the front. You want this really secure because you do not want it falling off on the heads of one of your chicks. Make sure it's good and tight. install your bulb. Open up your package for your temperature controller. Plug in your cord. Plug in the temperature controller to your outlet. Put your chicks inside. Clip the roof down tight. And don't forget to put the temperature detector down at about the level where the chicks might congregate. A little bit of duct tape here will prevent them from pulling on it and burying it in the bedding. As the chicks get older, they'll get stronger and they'll have a harder time, they'll have an easier time with pulling this. But if they're feathered out, you won't need this anymore. Once they're feathered out, you don't need a heat element anymore. It's really important that you place this on the side of your chick brooder that has a metal roof. Luckily, this brooder is all metal. Some people have only one side that's metal, some people have only one side that is plastic. You don't want this to come into contact with anything plastic. So if you have these types of plastic feeders, put the feeder on that side. If you have glass, that's better. The plastic ones, don't put them near the heating element. They can get tipped over by the chicks when they get overly excited, and then they can get melted against this heating element. So it's really better to switch it to a mason jar that fits these, if possible. So, all right, so I'm gonna let you see how this looks on our brooder shelf with our babies in there. All right, so this is a view of our brooding area. Down below here we have space for our older chicks. I can pull out that blue brooder and the step ladder, and our older chicks that are outside right now in their day run go in there. I use the little stepping stool because I am short and there are a lot of shelves and they're all full of chicks right now. So go ahead and check out our blog. We posted a link to it in the comments below, and send us some pictures of your own brooders. We'd love to see it and share ideas with you.